Robertson, the founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here to share the speaker portion of our Connections Over Coffee gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Our speaker, Elaine Robinson Beattie, will talk on recovering together. Elaine is an inspirational speaker, leadership coach, and certified diversity, equity, and inclusion trainer, equipping leaders to excel in today's multicultural workforce. She spent 21 years as a senior executive of Fortune 500 companies in the hospitality industry, working across the US and Canada. Elaine has earned a master's in leadership and management from Montreal College and a master of religious leadership from Emory University. She's also a registered corporate coach. And thank you for speaking with us, Elaine.
Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to be in this community once again. Ginny, you are just a blessing to just so many people. And the fact that you just love creating opportunities for community just warms my heart. And I know that it is a thing that you've been created to do because you do it so well. So thank you so much. Once again, I am here and appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts on a book that I am developing. I have been thinking about this topic for probably about 4 or 5 years. And it's one of those things that's just kind of bubbling up and growing and building and developing, like a baby, right? It feels like a baby to me. I remember being at a meeting and thought of the title and this topic, recovering together. And it had nothing to do with where I was. But the more I kept thinking about it, I kept thinking that recovery happens in community. And at that time, I was wearing a neck brace because I had had cervical spine surgery. I'm going to go back and start from the beginning, and then I'll bring you forward a little bit. I do want to give you a little bit of my history. I was born and raised in New York City. I am one of 3 children. My parents are both professionals. My dad he's passed away, but he grew up in Philadelphia. And my mom grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So north meets south. They met in college at Tuskegee and came to New York. And so here's this little southern girl in this big bad city. And, she was doing the best she could. She is a nurse. And today, at 87 years old, she still has her active nursing license. Okay. So we love that about her. So as it was, my parents worked very, very hard. They both grew up in, if you would, meager ways. I wouldn't say exactly poor, but certainly meager, and wanted to give us, their children, the best that they could do. In the midst of that, though, as children, we get these messages, right? We get these messages. And my parents sent us to good schools, and they always said, you have to learn, and just be able to get your degree so that you can move forward, so that you can get a good job, so that you can take care of yourself. So the message that was being sent to me and to my siblings was self-reliance, self-reliance, self-reliance. Can anybody agree with me on that? Right? Yes, exactly. Now, I am a baby boomer, and I think that that's probably more typical of our thoughts as far as how we were raised. But yes, so I was taught I need to do it on my own. I need to be self-sufficient. I need to just buck up and just do that. Now, most of us are from America, and we do know that that is the American way, right? Pull yourself up with your bootstraps. And I always say, what if I don't have boots, right? And what if I don't have feet? Okay? Yeah. So that doesn't work for everyone. And as Ginny said, I teach diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in that space, I truly want to say that that is a phrase that does not work for everyone. It is not that simple. And I realized that as I walked through life and had different opportunities and challenges that did not answer and respond to that question. And by that I mean, I went to a good school. I went to a good college. I graduated. And yet when I graduated, I could not find a job. And I thought, what in the world? I have a bachelor's degree in business. All my friends graduated and had jobs. And I thought, why is this? What is going on? Well, thank God, my dad said to me, why don't you go speak to my friend Howard Mills? They were classmates. I sat down, I talked to him, and he says, Elaine, what do you know about the hotel business? And I thought, nothing. And he says, I think you would be perfect for that. Howard Mills picks up the phone. He calls Sheraton, Hilton, Lowe's, all these different hotel companies. Sheraton Hotels called me up, flew me in the next day, had 6 interviews, and was offered a management training position on the spot. And that is how I got into the hotel business. Who knew that that was what I was built to do? Who knew that that was going to be my life for 25 years? It was amazing. So right then and there, I can say that that was probably the first major opportunity where I accepted help. And let me just stop here. When I talk about recovering together, and I'm going to get to that in a moment, I want you all to think about 3 things. 1, it's acknowledging our current situation. 2, it's asking for help or assistance. And 3, it's accepting the gift that one has to share. So it's acknowledging our current situation, it's asking for help, and it's accepting the gift. I had to accept the gift that Howard offered. For several years, starting with my management training, I struggled to be like the others. And I didn't know why. Why was I running into difficulties? Well, again, we have to think about where we are starting from. Some of us are starting from places of privilege. Some of us are starting from places of connection. Some of us are starting from places that have been created for us from the day we were born. If you have any Jewish friends, you know that the way they groom their children, they'll say, Joshua, you are going to be a lawyer. And they start dropping that message. It really is very, very true. They start dropping that message at the very beginning. And so they walk into that. But if you've never had anyone to be encouraging, to be your cheerleader, you may not have that thought. And so that could be one reason why we fall behind, okay, in an opportunity. As I was in the hotel business, I ran into so many walls. So many walls. I could not understand why my friends were advancing quicker than I was. One of the opportunities I had to recover from was, and I think a lot of you can relate that to this, is the glass ceiling. I was crashing into that ceiling time and time again. And I did not know what was happening. And it was only when I finally said, I know I want to be a general manager. Can you help me? And I had a woman who had been with Sheraton for 30 years to say, Elaine, I will help you. I will walk with you. But I had to tell her my story, right? My desire, and then accept her help as a mentor. And let me just say that Howard Mills was a mentor for me throughout the entire time that I was in the industry. Now, some of us might have an idea about what our mentors look like. Some of us might have an idea about what help looks like. And I think, and I can't remember your name, but one of the women in our group said she had an idea about what help looked like. And if it didn't look a certain way, right, we may not be able to recognize it, and we may not accept that. So I want to encourage everyone to think and to realize that help can come in so many ways from people we may not expect. So we must be open. We must be open to accepting that. There were many, many opportunities, as I said, for me to experience, and I'll say loss, as I was working. And I would suspect many of you have opportunities like that too, right? The loss of a promotion, the loss of, the opportunity to move around, right? The loss of being highlighted in a presentation. Have you ever done a presentation and then somebody takes your information and they present it like it was theirs? I see a nodding head. Yes, exactly, right? How do we, and every time we do that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, there is something that we do experience in the way of loss, right? It's a loss of self-esteem. It can be a loss of confidence. There is a loss that we're experiencing. And what we have to do is slow down a little bit and recognize that that was an opportunity and a hurt. And then realize that there is help out there. You think, I don't need help. I can just get over it, because that's what they told me. Just get over it, Elaine. But you know what? That has a long-term effect. A long-term effect. And we start internalizing those messages. And I think that might be some of the barriers, right, that keeps us from accepting help. So there are opportunities in our work lives where we experience losses. There are opportunities in our personal lives, right, where we experience losses. I don't know about you, but losing a family member, losing a dog, losing, again, just familial habits and rituals. And some of them might have been okay for a while, but as we grow, as we develop, we have to let go of them. For instance, what happens when you become ill or somebody in your family becomes ill? I, unfortunately, had 4 surgeries in 3 years, 2 knee replacements, and 2 cervical spine surgeries. Now, ladies, you need to know that prior to that, I owned a Curves fitness center. So I was used to jumping around, just having a good time. And the first surgery, actually, there was one before that, was I had a torn meniscus. Okay. And from there, it was just downhill. 2 knee replacements, 2 cervical spine surgeries. The first cervical spine surgery was a complete surprise. Now, I got married in 2012. All this started happening in 2015. I told my husband that, he was the problem. Jokingly, of course. But all I can say is thank God for my husband. I would not have made it. I kept thinking about what if I was still single and having to do this recovery by myself. My husband sat up at night. He got up in the middle of the night and gave me my medicine. He brought me water. He brought me food, to the bed. He, of course, drove me to my appointments. It was just amazing to me how much help I needed, right? To get into the shower, to go to the bathroom. And that is humbling. That is absolutely humbling. In addition to that, we were put into a neighborhood, and I'll say that, where we have wonderful neighbors. My neighbor would come down and check on me every day. And one day she said to me, Elaine, can I walk your dog? I think your dog needs exercise. Now, who would have thought of that, right, as part of my recovery? But again, I had to say yes. Not only did this neighbor come down to visit, bring me food, walk my dog, take me to different physical therapy appointments. I'm so grateful. Who would have thought I needed all that help? Again, acknowledging where we are, asking for help, and accepting the help. I was also in seminary at this time. People were helping me get to class. People were taking notes for me. I was blown away, absolutely blown away. They prayed for me. When we tell people what is actually going on, we have help, assistance, a community that will rally around us in the way that they know best. I love my husband's class because he told them that I was going through these surgeries, and I attribute my health to their fervent prayers that they shared with me. I really do. It was the most beautiful thing. So that was where I actually started to ponder about this thought. I don't recover by myself. It takes my doctors, my physical therapist, my fitness coach, my husband, my neighbor. Now, you think about that. Say, she was pretty needy. And you know what? I was. I needed all of that. And again, coming from the mindset, you can do this by yourself. Just do it. And I was in here. I was in my house rolling around with my walker, trying to make dinner, trying to clean the house. It's like, really, Elaine? Really? People were calling me up and saying, tell me what you need. And I had to humbly say, well, my refrigerator is a mess. And joyfully, my neighbor said, I'll clean it for you. Now, how many of you would let someone clean your refrigerator? Okay. Oh, Cheryl, I love it. I love it. I'm sharing this because it was a very unusual time in my life. Now, there are other topics and there are other experiences that I've had. Being physically assaulted. How do you recover from that? How do you recover from that? Well, the police are involved, the assistant DA, again, some family members. But we have to tell people what happened, right? I literally had to call the police. And it was heartbreaking. because it was a family member. But we have to save ourselves. We're only responsible for ourselves. And that just doesn't go away in 2 seconds or less. It is one of those things that we have to make sure that we make a decision that we must first take care of ourselves and do whatever it takes to maintain our mental, emotional, social well-being. I encourage you all to let people in. I encourage you all to tell at least one person what you're going through. Giving and receiving is a process. It's a natural flow. There are people that I realize that were gifted to help me in my distress. But we must be conscious and free from the thoughts of being embarrassing. Yes, we have to be vulnerable. But take down those walls. And the gift is sitting right there with a big old bow. We must acknowledge our current situation and that we're not able to do it ourselves. We must ask for help. Now, here's a little caution. Be wise in your asking. Be wise. I have employed professionals and people that I know that have been there and done that and will not be judging me for what I share. And then it's accepting the gift, accepting their help, the way they do it, not with us controlling it, because we might miss what it is that we're really supposed to get. Oh, well, I wanted the blue one. Well, no, guess what? The blue one wasn't for you. Well, I wanted that 15 minutes ago. Guess what? That wasn't ready for you 15 minutes ago. So yes, it requires us to let go of the control, to let go of how we see it, but just openly accept that someone has what we need in order to recover, in order to come back to where we need to be. It's important for us to build community. It's important for us to not walk out difficulties alone. We are not to suffer in silence. We are not to suffer in silence. Recovering together is what we see, is where we see an opportunity. Embrace it. Recovering together.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. I assume you were finished. That seemed like a great place to end, recovering together. I love everything that you said. It's a gift to us and to the person giving. And that's a hard one, I think, for some of us to understand, that it is a gift to others when they get to give. So I want to thank everyone who's watching this live, either with us right now in the group or the replay. If you'd like to join us for one of our 11 free Zoom gatherings a month or an in-person in Richmond, Virginia, comment below and I'll tell you just how to do that. You can also go to my website, opwgc.com, and find out all about the community. Thanks again for watching.